John Hancock. Of course, most people know his name because of this. He was the first person to sign the Declaration of Independence, thus becoming one of America's founding fathers. But what most people don't know is just how important John Hancock was during the American Revolution. He was not only one of the most successful merchants in the colonies, but he also served as president of the Continental Congress and was a leader in the Continental Army. In this episode of American Stories, we will look at the life of John Hancock, the first to sign, the first to invest in America's independence. Our story begins in 1737 in the bustling port city of Boston. The members of the Sons of Liberty were known for their radical views and their willingness to take action against those who opposed them. They played a major role in the events leading up to the American Revolution. At first, he was just an apprentice, but he quickly worked his way up to become a full-fledged partner. The British government had been taxing the colonies without their consent, and the people were becoming more and more angry. This anger would eventually boil over and lead to the American Revolution. He lived in hiding for months, and he had to change his name and disguise himself in order to avoid capture, but he never gave up on the fight. For example, he was a delegate to the Constitutional Convention in 1787, and he helped to draft the United States Constitution. He was a successful merchant, a skilled politician, and a brave revolutionary. But perhaps his greatest legacy is the example that he set for others. Hancock was a true American patriot, and he showed that one man can make a difference. He also served as a senator from Massachusetts from 1789 to 1793. He was a key figure in the American Revolution, and his contributions to the founding of the United States are immeasurable. Remember the man who risked everything to fight for freedom, who led the Continental Congress during the darkest days of the Revolution, and who helped to create the United States. He was also one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, which declared that the 13 American colonies were free and independent from British rule. So if you're a history buff, or just someone who loves to learn new things, then be sure to check out my new website. You won't be disappointed. He also helped to establish the town of Hancock, Maryland, which was named in his honor. In addition, he was a major investor in the development of the Northwest Territory, which included present-day Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and part of Minnesota. As you may know, I am also a historian, and I love sharing my knowledge with others. He was also a major player in the economic development of the United States. After the war, he helped to establish several banks and businesses that played a key role in the growth of the new nation. His radical views and willingness to take extreme measures to achieve independence made him an enemy of the British government and a target of their propaganda machine. He was a man who valued freedom and democracy, yet he also owned slaves and participated in a system of government that denied rights to most Americans. If you enjoyed this video and you want more stories like this, please subscribe. We have a ton of historical stories from all across the U.S. waiting for you. He was a man who sought to build bridges with other cultures, yet he also helped to start a war that resulted in the deaths of thousands. He was accused of being a traitor and a rebel, and his family even suffered imprisonment and exile as a result of his activities. He helped to lay the foundation for the country's first banking system, and he also played a key role in the development of some of its most important territories. He was fluent in French and Spanish, and he was an avid reader of classical literature. He was a member of several literary and scientific societies, and he corresponded with some of the most important thinkers of his day. He was also a patron of the arts and sciences, and he helped to support several libraries, museums, and schools. That's why I'm so excited to tell you about my new website. He was also the president of the Continental Congress. This made him the head of the United States government at the time. By the time he was in his 20s, he was one of the most successful merchants in Boston. He was a wealthy merchant who benefited from the slave trade, and he also owned slaves himself. While he did eventually come to regret this, it remains a dark stain on his legacy. I cover a wide range of topics, so there's something for everyone. Whether you're interested in ancient civilizations or modern history, whether you want to learn about famous historical figures or lesser-known events, I've got you covered. Hancock was one of the few people who could keep up with Washington's work. He was a strong believer in the cause of independence, and he was willing to put everything on the line to achieve it. When the revolution began, Hancock was in London trying to do business as usual. From t-shirts, to mugs, to phone cases, I've got something for everyone. My products are not only fun and stylish, but they also help to support my channel and allow me to continue making great content. But once he heard the news that war had broken out, he returned to Boston and threw himself into the fight. After 7 long years of fighting, the United States was victorious. The Treaty of Paris was signed in 1783, and it officially recognized the United States as a free and independent nation. In fact, he was so successful that he didn't have to work another day in his life, if he didn't want to. But he did anyway, because he had a passion for it. John Hancock was born into a wealthy family, and had every opportunity to lead a comfortable life. His father, John, was a successful merchant who had made a fortune trading in the West Indies, but young John had other plans. For example, in 1769, he became the agent for the Virginia Company, which gave him the power to vote on behalf of the colony in the British House of Commons. He used this power to advocate for the rights of the colonists and to protect their interests against the British government. He wanted to follow in his father's footsteps and become a merchant himself. As soon as he was old enough, he went to work for his father's company. And while his business was doing well, he wasn't satisfied with just making money. He wanted to use his wealth and influence to help the colony of and he had a particular interest in the town of Boston, where he lived. Hancock was a major contributor to public works projects, and he was always looking for ways to improve the lives of the people who lived there. But it wasn't just about giving back to the community. It was also about making a difference in the world. He was also a member of the Sons of Liberty, a secret society that was formed to oppose British policies in the American colonies. However, by the 1770s, tensions between the colonies and Great Britain were growing. Hancock was one of the leaders of the revolution, and he put his money where his mouth was. He was elected to the Continental Congress, and he used his position to lobby other colonies to join the fight for independence. In this role, he worked closely with George Washington, the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. For example, when the British came to arrest him for his role in the Boston Tea Party, he fled to the countryside, and his bravery and determination paid off. After the war, Hancock went back to his life as a merchant. However, he continued to serve his country in other ways. Throughout his life, John Hancock was a man of many talents. While John Hancock's signature on the Declaration of Independence is one of the most important moments in American history, his life and accomplishments extend far beyond that one moment. So next time you see John Hancock's signature on the Declaration of Independence, take a moment to remember the man behind the signature. All right? Now before we go, I want to talk about something that really excites me. On my website, I share my knowledge about history through engaging articles and fun products. In addition to my articles, I also offer a range of fun products that bring history to life. All right, now let's get back to the video. But it wasn't just Hancock's political career that was impressive. For example, he was one of the founders of the Massachusetts Bank, which was the first bank in the United States. Hancock's economic contributions were vital to the development of the United States. Furthermore, Hancock was a man of culture and sophistication, who was well-traveled and well-educated. Hancock's cultural contributions were an important part of the intellectual ferment characterized the American Revolution. However, despite all of his accomplishments, Hancock's life was not without its controversies. Furthermore, Hancock was a controversial figure during the American Revolution. In addition, Hancock was a complex and sometimes contradictory figure. All right, now we're going to close out this episode of American Stories. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.